A great battle raged in the cold, dark void of space. Humanity's warships fought desperately against the Selenar, a ruthless alien race that had invaded human space. The Earth Defense Fleet was outnumbered, and their ships were breaking apart under the enemy's powerful weapons. Explosions flashed across the battlefield as human vessels were destroyed one by one. Captain Reynolds, aboard the battleship Vanguard, clenched his fists as he watched the carnage unfold. His crew worked frantically, shouting reports, but he already knew the truth. Humanity was losing. The Selenar fleet moved with deadly precision, tearing through defenses like a knife through paper. Then, something changed. A new signal appeared on the scanners. It was massive. It was fast, and it was coming straight toward the battlefield. Reynolds stared at the screen. What the hell is that? The mysterious ship emerged from the darkness, unlike anything seen before. It had no markings, no identification, no known human design. It was black, sleek, and moved with unnatural speed. It wasn't part of the Earth Defense Fleet. It wasn't on any records. It had come from nowhere. Before anyone could react, the unknown warship fired. A single blast of energy shot from its main cannon, cutting through an entire Selenar warship like it was nothing. The alien vessel exploded instantly. The battlefield fell silent for a moment. Then, chaos erupted. The Selenar fleet scrambled to adjust. They turned their weapons toward the mysterious warship, but it was too fast. It weaved through enemy fire with perfect precision, its weapons tearing through the Selenar with terrifying power. One by one, the alien ships fell. On the Vanguard, Reynolds and his crew watched in stunned silence. "Sir, it's fighting for us," one officer whispered. The mysterious warship moved like a ghost, attacking without hesitation. It didn't communicate. It didn't ask for help. It simply destroyed anything that threatened humanity. Selenar ships tried to escape, but the warship hunted them down. It was relentless, striking with a level of accuracy beyond anything the Earth Defense Fleet had ever seen. In mere minutes, half of the enemy fleet was gone. The remaining Selenar forces panicked. They turned and fled, abandoning their attack. The battlefield, once filled with explosions and chaos, fell into eerie silence. On the Vanguard, the crew cheered, but Reynolds remained frozen, his eyes locked on the screen. The warship had stopped moving. It floated among the wreckage, silent and still. "Try to contact it," he ordered. His communications officer sent out a transmission. "Unknown vessel, this is Captain Reynolds of the Earth Defense Fleet. Identify yourself." No response. They tried again. Still nothing. The ship didn't acknowledge them. It didn't respond to any signals. Then, as suddenly as it had appeared, the warship turned and vanished into the darkness of space. It left without a trace. No signals. No explanations. Just silence. Reynolds exhaled slowly, trying to make sense of what had just happened. The crew whispered among themselves. Some believed it was an advanced AI ship, lost and forgotten. Others thought it was an experimental warship that had somehow returned. But nobody had answers. All they knew was that a warship had come from nowhere. It had fought for humanity. And then it had disappeared. Reynolds stared into the void, a strange feeling settling in his chest. Where had it come from? And more importantly, would it return? Reynolds couldn't sleep that night. The battle had ended, humanity had survived, but the questions remained. He sat alone in his dimly lit quarters, staring at the holographic display of the battlefield from earlier. The mysterious warship had saved them, but it had disappeared as quickly as it arrived. Where had it gone? More importantly, who or what was controlling it? Reports were coming in from every fleet commander. None of them had any information on the ship. It wasn't part of Earth's military. It wasn't a secret project. It simply didn't exist in any known records. That should have been impossible. A ship of that size, that power, someone had to know about it. But no one did. The Earth Defense Command demanded answers. Theories flooded the military channels. Some believed it was an advanced AI ship, long abandoned and now reactivated. Others whispered rumors of a forgotten guardian, an ancient protector of humanity that had returned when it was needed most. But nobody could prove anything. On the Vanguard, the crew moved cautiously, still shaken by what they had witnessed. Engineers analyzed sensor data, hoping to find any trace of where the warship had gone, but it was as if the ship had never been there. No warp signature, no energy trail, nothing. It was a ghost. 2 days passed in uneasy silence. The Xelinar were gone, retreating deeper into their own territory. No new attacks came, but the presence of the warship lingered in everyone's minds. Then, just as people started to believe it might never return, alarms blared across the Vanguard. A massive energy surge had been detected on the edge of the system. Reynolds rushed to the command deck. "Show me." The screen lit up with a live feed. There it was. The warship had returned, but this time it wasn't alone. A Xelinar scout fleet had appeared, likely sent to gather information after their humiliating defeat. The alien ships kept their distance, cautious. They had no intention of attacking, not yet. They were watching, waiting. And so was the warship. It didn't move. It didn't fire. It simply floated in the void, facing the Xelinar as if daring them to make a move. Reynolds felt a chill run down his spine. The ship was waiting for something. But what? "Try to contact it again," he ordered. His officers sent out multiple transmissions. Again, there was no response. The warship remained silent, ignoring every attempt to communicate. Then, without warning, something changed. A deep hum filled the air, vibrating through the Vanguard's hull. It wasn't coming from their systems. It was coming from the warship. The lights on its dark metallic surface pulsed with a strange rhythm. And suddenly, the silence was broken. A message appeared on their screens. It wasn't a transmission. It wasn't a spoken voice. It was a simple text, written in clear human language. "Defenders of humanity, stand your ground. The war is not over." The bridge fell into stunned silence. Reynolds read the words again, his mind racing. This ship, whatever it was, understood them. It knew the war wasn't over, but why wouldn't it tell them more? Then something even more unexpected happened. The Xelinar scout ships turned and fled. They didn't fire a single shot. They didn't attempt to analyze the ship further. They simply ran. The warship remained still for a moment longer before, once again, vanishing into the darkness. This time, it left behind a single energy signature, one that the Vanguard scientists immediately recognized. It wasn't random. It wasn't noise. It was coordinates. Reynolds felt a cold realization settle in his chest. The warship wasn't just protecting them. It wanted them to follow. Reynolds stood at the command deck of the Vanguard, staring at the coordinates displayed on the screen. The mysterious warship had given them a destination, a place deep in uncharted space, a place humanity had never explored. The bridge was silent, every officer waiting for his decision. "Captain," Commander Hayes said cautiously, "we don't know what's out there. It could be a trap." Reynolds didn't look away from the screen. "Then let's find out." The order was given. The fleet prepared for a jump, but Earth Command was hesitant. They wanted answers, but they also feared the unknown. After hours of discussion, a decision was made. Only a small task force would follow the coordinates. The Vanguard, along with 2 escort ships, would make the journey. The moment they entered warp space, tension filled the air. The crew spoke in hushed voices, as if afraid to disturb whatever force had guided them here. Every second felt stretched, the hum of the ship's engines the only sound breaking the silence. Then, the ship exited warp, and what they saw left them breathless. A graveyard. Massive wreckage floated in the void, the remains of ships that were ancient and unknown. Some were the size of cities, shattered into pieces. Others still glowed faintly, their energy cores flickering like dying stars. This wasn't just a battlefield. It was a place where entire civilizations had fought and fallen. The sensors couldn't identify most of the wreckage. The technology was beyond anything humanity had encountered. But there was one thing that stood out, one thing that made their blood run cold. Among the ruins were Excellinar warships, but not the ones humanity had fought before. These were older, much older. Their hulls were rusted, their weapons long dead, yet they bore the same insignia, the same markings. The Excellinar had been here before, and they had lost. Reynolds took a slow breath. Find the warship. The scanners searched the debris field, scanning for any sign of their mysterious ally. At first, there was nothing. Then, a faint energy signature appeared in the distance. The warship was waiting. It hovered near the wreckage, motionless. Its black hull reflected the distant stars, making it look almost invisible. The crew watched, waiting for it to move, to react, to acknowledge their presence. Then, for the first time, it did. A low, echoing sound vibrated through the ship, not a communication, but something deeper, something ancient. The crew felt it in their bones, like a whisper from a forgotten past. A message appeared on their screens, just as before. You have come. Witness the truth. Without warning, the warship moved. It weaved through the wreckage with eerie precision, leading them deeper into the graveyard. The vanguard followed cautiously, maneuvering around the remains of fallen titans. Then they saw it, a massive structure hidden among the wreckage. It was not a ship. It was something else. A station, a fortress. No one could tell. Its surface was cracked, ancient, yet something inside it was still alive. Energy pulsed from its core, slow and rhythmic, like the last breaths of a dying giant. The warship stopped in front of it. Another message appeared. They feared what they did not understand. They destroyed what they could not control. Learn before it is too late. Reynolds felt his throat go dry. Prepare a scouting team, he ordered. We're going inside. As the ships adjusted their position, a new problem arose. The Excellinar had followed them. Sensors lit up with new contacts. At least a dozen ships had appeared at the edge of the system. Unlike the ruins, these were fully operational, and they were heading straight for them. The warship turned toward the enemy. It had no hesitation. It was ready for battle. But this time, it wasn't alone. The vanguard and its escorts powered up their weapons, standing beside their mysterious ally. Whatever secrets lay hidden in this graveyard, they were about to fight for them. The first shot came from the Excellinar. A lance of green energy streaked through the void, cutting across the battlefield. The warship moved first, weaving through the wreckage like a shadow. It dodged with impossible precision, closing the distance before the Excellinar could adjust. Then it struck back. A single blast erupted from its hull, brighter than a star, and one of the Excellinar ships vanished in an instant. No debris, no explosion, just gone. On the vanguard, the crew was frozen, watching the battle unfold. "This is insane," whispered an officer. "That ship isn't just advanced. It's something else entirely." Reynolds gritted his teeth. He couldn't afford to be a spectator. Target the closest Excellinar vessel. Fire at will. The vanguard's cannons roared to life, unleashing a barrage of missiles and plasma fire. The escort ships followed, their weapons joining the fray. The Excellinar were fast, but for the first time, humanity wasn't the underdog. The warship fought with terrifying precision, striking with an intelligence that no eye or organic mind could match. Every movement, every shot, it was like it had seen this battle before. Within minutes, 4 Excellinar ships were destroyed. The rest hesitated. They were afraid. The warship sent no message this time. It didn't need to. Its actions spoke clearly. It would not allow the Excellinar to claim this place. Then, without warning, the ancient station awoke. A deep, pulsing light spread across its surface. Symbols that no human had ever seen before flickered to life, glowing with an eerie blue hue. A hum vibrated through the wreckage, growing louder. Reynolds turned to his science officer. "What's happening?" The officer's hands flew over the controls, scanning the station. His face turned pale. "Captain, something inside that structure is activating." Before anyone could react, the warship moved again. It turned away from the Excellinar and approached the station. A section of its hull shifted, and a thin beam of light extended from it, connecting with the ancient structure. And then, everything changed. The hum became a roar. The wreckage around them trembled. And then, for the first time in history, the Excellinar did something no one had ever seen before. They fled. The remaining Excellinar ships turned and retreated at full speed, their engines burning brighter than ever. They weren't just retreating from battle. They were running for their lives. The warship remained still, its connection with the station unbroken. More messages appeared on the Vanguard screen. They remember. They fear what sleeps. They will return, but not alone. Reynolds' stomach tightened. "What does that mean?" he muttered. The officer monitoring the station's readings gasped. "Captain, the station isn't just activating." He swallowed hard. "It's waking something up." Then the lights inside the structure pulsed one final time, and something enormous, something ancient, began to move deep within its core. Deep within the ancient station, something stirred. The pulsing light spread through its colossal structure, illuminating cracks that had been dark for untold centuries. The metal groaned as if the very bones of the station were shifting, coming alive after an eternity of silence. On the Vanguard, the crew watched in stunned disbelief. The warship remained still, its connection to the station unbroken. Whatever was happening, it was not stopping. Reynolds turned to his science officer. "Can you make sense of this?" The officer's hands trembled over the console. I think we're witnessing an ancient system rebooting. This station isn't just a relic, Captain. It's something more, something alive." Then the readings spiked. A massive energy surge erupted from deep within the station, sending waves of blue light rippling outward. The wreckage floating around them trembled, caught in the force of whatever was awakening. And then, they heard it. Not a sound, not a message. A presence. A voice that wasn't spoken, but felt. It was inside their minds, deep and resonant. A whisper from something unfathomably old. It wasn't words, not at first. It was emotions, thoughts layered over each other in a storm of ancient memories. Pain, war, destruction, betrayal, and then clarity. "You are not them." Reynolds felt his breath hitch. He wasn't the only one. His crew exchanged uneasy glances, their faces pale. The warship sent another message across their screens. They came before. They took. They destroyed. Now, they return. Reynolds gritted his teeth. Who? The Excellinar. The presence shifted. For a moment, there was silence. Then the station's energy surged again, and something vast, something hidden in its deepest chambers, began to rise. Metal twisted, platforms reformed. And then, emerging from the darkness, came the first glimpse of what lay beneath. A ship, but not just any ship. It was massive, larger than anything humanity had ever constructed. A vessel built not for war, not for exploration, but for survival. It had been buried, hidden for an unknown amount of time, sealed away beneath the ruins of this graveyard. And now, it was waking up. The warship disengaged its beam, drifting backward as the station's core began to realign. The colossal vessel within it pulsed with energy, its systems powering up. The presence returned, more focused now, more aware. The architects fell. We remained. Now, the cycle begins again. Reynolds' mind raced. The architects. The Excellinar weren't the first enemy this place had seen. There had been others. A war long before humanity even existed. A war that had left this station as the last remnant of a forgotten era. Then the presence shifted again. They are coming. The crew barely had time to react before the sensors flared to life. Xelnar ships were returning. But this time, they weren't alone. Dozens of new signatures appeared on the edge of the system. Larger, stronger, ships of a design never seen before. The Xelnar had called for reinforcements, and whoever had answered was something far worse. Reynolds' pulse pounded in his ears. The station had awakened, and so had its secrets. Now, the battle for survival was about to begin. The moment the new fleet arrived, the void itself seemed to darken. The Xelnar ships, once humanity's greatest threat, now looked like mere escorts beside the behemoths that emerged from hyperspace. The newcomers were massive, their hulls black as the abyss, adorned with glowing red patterns that pulsed like living veins. Their shapes were unnatural, jagged and asymmetric, as if they had been forged from the remains of countless civilizations. The sensors screamed with warnings. "Captain," the science officer's voice was laced with panic. "These ships, whatever they are beyond anything we've ever encountered. Their energy readings are off the charts. I don't even think the warship can take them alone." Reynolds clenched his jaw. He had seen many battles, but this was something else. The Xelnar had never run from a fight, yet they had fled this station in fear. If these newcomers were what the Xelnar feared, then humanity was facing something far worse than it had ever imagined. The warship, silent until now, sent another message. "They have come to finish what they started. You must decide, fight or flee." The words chilled Reynolds to the bone. He knew the answer before he even spoke. "Vanguard to all ships," he said, his voice steady. "We hold the line." The fleet powered up weapons, forming a defensive formation around the station. The warship, still unreadable in its true motives, did not leave. It remained at the forefront, facing the enemy like a lone guardian of an ancient secret. Then the enemy fleet spoke. Not with words, with destruction. A single blast erupted from the lead ship. No visible cannon, no warning. It simply fired, and a shockwave tore through the battlefield. One of the escort ships, the Relentless, didn't even have time to evade. The energy consumed it whole, leaving nothing but a fading echo of light. The bridge of the Vanguard erupted into chaos. They took out a battleship in one shot. What kind of weapon is that? Reynolds slammed his fist against the console. "We don't run. We return fire, everything we got." Missiles, plasma rounds, railgun slugs, all unleashed in a furious storm. The Xelnar ships joined the assault, their desperation clear. Whatever ancient enemy had arrived, even the Xelnar wanted them gone. But the enemy ships didn't flinch. Their hulls shimmered, absorbing or deflecting most of the incoming fire. They moved in eerie silence, their engines emitting no sound, no heat, just an overwhelming presence of sheer, unstoppable force. Then the warship acted. It shot forward, moving faster than anything should be able to. Its dark hull rippled, and then it unleashed its own weapon. A pulse of pure white light burst from its core, striking the lead enemy vessel. For the first time, the enemy reacted. The red veins on their hulls pulsed violently, and a horrific screech echoed through every ship in the system. Not through the comms, not through the air, through their minds. Reynolds gritted his teeth as pain shot through his skull. Around him, the crew clutched their heads, some collapsing. It wasn't just noise. It was something deeper. A message, a warning, or a promise. The warship continued its assault, striking with precision, but the enemy adapted. Their ships shifted, their hulls bending as if alive, forming protective barriers against the incoming attacks. Then the ancient station acted. The massive structure that had slumbered for eons flared to life. The glowing blue veins of energy pulsed faster, stronger. The ship hidden within the station, larger than anything in the fleet, began to rise. A final message appeared on every screen. They erased the past. They will erase the future, unless we stand. And with that, the battle for existence truly began. The station's core pulsed one final time, and then it unleashed hell. From deep within its ancient structure, energy surged outward in massive arcs of crackling blue light. The colossal ship buried within the station fully emerged, its hull reforging itself as if awakening from a long-forgotten nightmare. It was no ordinary vessel. It was a relic of a war so ancient, even the Telenar had feared its return. The enemy fleet hesitated. Their red-veined ships, so unstoppable before, now reacted with something almost resembling fear. Their eerie formations broke as they adjusted course, scanning the newly awakened Titan before them. On the Vanguard, Reynolds and his crew watched in stunned silence. "Captain," the science officer's voice trembled. "That ship, it's rewriting its own systems. It's evolving." The warship, their silent ally, sent one last message. "Now, we end this." Without hesitation, it charged straight into the enemy fleet, moving with impossible speed. It weaved between the towering enemy vessels, dodging their devastating energy blasts, and then fired another pulse of pure white light. This time, the lead enemy ship couldn't absorb it. It screamed. Not a sound, not a transmission, but a raw, agonized shriek inside every mind in the system. The enemy ship cracked, its red veins shattering like brittle glass. Then, with an explosion that rippled through space, it was gone. The other enemy ships hesitated for the first time, and in that moment, the massive Titan from the station finished its awakening. Its weapons, technologies so advanced that no known civilization could comprehend them, came online. A deep, thrumming hum vibrated through the void. And then, with a single pulse of energy, it struck. A wave of pure force spread outward. Not a weapon of destruction, a weapon of erasure. 3 enemy ships simply vanished, erased from existence as if they had never been. The remaining vessels recoiled, their red veins pulsing in frantic patterns. The Excellinar, realizing their former masters were no longer invincible, turned on them as well. Reynolds didn't waste the opportunity. "All ships, open fire. Take them down while they're vulnerable." The battlefield erupted. The Vanguard and its escorts unleashed everything they had. The warship fought like a predator, slicing through enemy ranks with brutal precision. The station's Titan continued its onslaught, every shot rewriting the rules of warfare. The enemy fleet tried to retreat. It was the first time anyone had seen them run. But there was no escape. One by one, the monstrous ships fell. Some were torn apart by railgun rounds and missile barrages. Others were unmade by the station's weapons, their very existence wiped away. The last remaining ship attempted to flee into warp, but the warship was faster. It fired a final devastating pulse. The enemy ship froze in space, its red veins flickering. Then, as if it had never been real to begin with, it simply unraveled, dissolving into nothing. The battle was over. Silence filled the void. The wreckage of the enemy and the Excellinar drifted aimlessly, nothing but echoes of a war that had nearly erased them all. The warship, victorious but still enigmatic, remained still. The station's Titan, its purpose fulfilled, dimmed slightly, its energy stabilizing. A final message appeared on the Vanguard screen. "The cycle is broken, but the war is not over." Reynolds exhaled slowly. He didn't know what the future held, but one thing was certain. Humanity had stepped into something far greater than itself. And now, the galaxy would never be the same.